2 years ago, I got bitten by the travel bug, and it took me so completely by surprise because up until then, I'd been happy holidaying in the UK, packing the car up with laptop and dog and heading to the south coast. But then something shifted. Life had been hard for a while. In the space of 2 years, I'd lost both my parents and a friend. I'd had 2 operations and been hit by menopause. Hard. Perhaps I saw travel as an escape. The trouble was, I hadn't been abroad for 15 years and my passport had long expired. I'd never even been to an airport on my own, and I'd only done solo travel via train in the UK. Going solo just seemed so terrifying. After all, the world moved in couples, didn't it? So I started gently with a trip to Amsterdam with a friend and one to Sicily with my brother. I was desperate to make up for lost time. After all, how long did I have left? My parents both died in their late 70s and I couldn't help doing a few calculations and wondering just how long I might have left. But even if I could commit to several trips a year, who would come with me? Who else would be available? There was only one solution really, and that was to go solo. It wasn't long before I booked my first solo trip to Crete, flying from Norwich Airport, which is a tiny little airport in Norfolk in the east of England. And to give you some perspective, it takes about 10 minutes to walk from the car park and go into the airport and right through security. And I kept everything really simple by booking excursions through an agent on my first day. There were some wonderful highlights from that trip to Crete. One of them was sailing out to the island of Dia and swimming from the back of the boat to the shore. Another was to the island of Santorini, where I took another boat trip out into the caldera, and I just had this most incredible feeling of freedom and wonder that I had actually got myself there. And there have been so many other incredible moments since that first solo trip. I remember sitting on a bench between Hagia Sophia and the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, listening to the call to prayer. And walking high above the River Danube in Budapest. My second solo trip was to Tenerife, and I followed a similar pattern to that in Crete, where I booked a hotel and flight through an agent and then booked excursions from my resort. But I also did something that was so completely outside my comfort zone that I shocked even myself. I went paragliding. Tenerife is the perfect island for those with an adventurous spirit, and I wanted to challenge myself. But there was a moment before launching when I wondered what on earth I was doing. But once airborne, there was a sense of pure exhilaration as I flew high above the banana plantations and posh hotels, heading straight for the coast. It's now 2 full years since that first solo trip, and I've now done 6. And there's a few things that I've learned along my way that I want to share with you now. The first thing is, don't wait for your friends. Because here's the thing, they're not just your friends. They're wives and mothers and bosses and employees. And the likelihood of getting your timetable to align with those, well, it might never happen. And of course, their passions and wish lists might be completely different from yours. Don't wait for permission or for somebody else to say, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Simply ask those questions of yourself and then gift yourself that special trip. When you travel solo, you can do exactly what you want. If you want to spend 6 hours in a museum, you can. If you're bored after half an hour, you can leave. You have nobody to please but yourself. You can eat when you want and where you want. And if you want to return to the same restaurant in Bologna and eat the pasta al limone again, you can. In fact, I highly recommend that you do. And if you want to spend your time gazing in awe and photographing medieval architecture like I often do, then you can. This is your trip. There are some downsides to travelling solo, of course. You have to work everything out for yourself, like how do the trains in Italy run? But there's a real sense of accomplishment and pride when you do it all yourself. Your confidence soars and your gratitude does too. And you can thoroughly indulge your own whims, like I did in Salzburg when I booked on the Sound of Music tour. You know, I still can't work out why nobody wanted to go on that with me. And here's a key question you should ask yourself. Would you rather go to these places alone or not at all? Solo travel might be a little scary, but the feeling of freedom is incredible. To me, it feels as if I've gatecrashed a party I knew I'd never be invited to. Of course, being a writer, I've written a book about those first few trips, including that first solo one to Crete, and it's full of photographs and tips, and I really hope you enjoy it. It's called Introvert Abroad, and it's out now.